and welcome to the Football 360 show, the Tuesday Night Football Fix. I am JP Rock. Special thank you to Wendy's in Chesterfield, Missouri for sponsoring Football 360. You can find them in the Chesterfield Valley. Work hard, play hard. Wendy's is family owned and operated, known for their pizza, wings, and live entertainment. You can have a great time inside or out in the heated patio. Wendy's also has carry out and online ordering available. Stop on by and check them out. You won't be disappointed. And make sure you tell them that you heard about it on the Football 360 show. He is Matt Bierman. Like I said, I am JP Rock. How you doing, Matt?
Doing great, JP. Fun to be back.
It is fun to be back. This is such a good time. We're having a good time, and everybody seems to love it so far. Hear a lot of good stuff when I'm out at games.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing here. A lot of good replies and a lot of sending messages.
Oh, absolutely.
Giving good feedback about, especially the recruiting. A lot of people love hearing the recruiting information.
They do. They do. They like the fact that it's informational besides just, talking football.
I think it's good, too, as people start to send us more questions and reach out, we can address those concerns and
most definitely
answer questions for them. I think that's awesome.
Yep. Hit us up on our social media at Football 360 Show on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram as well. And you can hit me up at JPRockMO. And your social medias are?
Elite Football on Twitter. And then on Instagram, it's Elite Football Academy. So pretty straightforward.
Yep.
And especially on the show, like, share, subscribe. I think that really helps us get the word out and do all the good things that we want to do with this show.
Absolutely. And JP Rock Scout You on Instagram. And if you're interested in helping support this show, you want to advertise, go ahead and hit up Megan at football360show.com. And you can be just like Wendy's and help support football and football talk, your Tuesday Night Football Fix. Did you come up with that tagline?
I did. It is.
I stole it from you.
Other than Maction, there's not much else going on Tuesday nights, and that's only a short period of time.
Well, you need something following, Monday Night Football, I guess, is the cutoff for normal people. Right. Yep. I'm at games all week long.
Yep.
Crisscrossing the country. I saw within the past week, I've seen middle school. I've seen freshman football, JV football, high school, varsity football, a little bit of college football. And it just, and thank goodness, special shout out to our wives for putting up with us because
amen.
It's tough. It's tough this time of year. It's nothing but football.
Yeah. I year round. I had great advice. A guy years ago who told me, he said, get your wife involved with what you're doing because I can see where this is going. And if you don't, you're going to have a problem. So I did. I brought Stephanie into our business years ago, and that's probably been the best thing ever.
That's perfect.
And we celebrate 20 years tomorrow. So
congratulations.
Pretty excited about that. Yeah.
I wish we had an applause. Applause.
Poor girl. She's had to put up with me all those years.
I concur. But hey, congratulations, Stephanie. for being a stalwart and putting up with that. So a lot of good stuff going on football wise. Just any particular players that you want to start? What's going on in your football world?
Oh, I just, the woes of junior football, you get to, you look at, and I think it's really interesting as far as like how the landscape of the little guys, like, the youth football, then you have the middle school feeder leagues and select teams. But those kids put in a ton of work. I think, a lot of times like it kind of gets swept under the rug as like it's just a lesser brand of football. And there's some really good stuff happening at the younger age.
There really is.
I'm constantly shocked at the size of a lot of the kids, the skill of a lot of the kids. And I had a guy, I was talking to a middle school coach today, and he asked me about training. And he said, hey, what do you think about like, does it work? And I said, well, I'm pretty biased, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You go to games, you can see who the natural athletes are, and you can also see who the kids are that have been training their butts off and have skills that are different than the other kids. And, I think that translates. But yeah, I'm knee deep in middle school football, but it'll come to an abrupt end here in a couple weeks. So
it really is. The season is going by super fast. We talked about it last week, how fast it's going by. We only have one more week of regular season high school football before we hit the playoffs going on. But there's a lot going on. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, playoffs, which happen to start the 27th. I mean, and that's everybody's equal. in theory there.
Yep.
Everybody's equal, even though it might not necessarily be the case. But that's going to hit us real quick. We're going to talk some college football. A lot of stuff going on. Mizzou, Illini with big wins. Parity. Do we have parity in college football?
It's really interesting. You start seeing, the schools that have all the transfers coming in, like a Colorado getting upended by a Stanford.
Right.
And I think that, people probably got caught off guard by that, but there's also that, I think there's just a lot of parity. I also think coaching matters. And,
Yes.
I think those teams that are really doing well in the recruiting, sometimes getting teams to gel quickly when you're bringing all these people together.
Right.
That's a challenge unto itself.
Right, because just having the transfer portal doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have success. It's still about who you bring in from that transfer portal. Case in point, the guy, the quarterback for Kentucky.
Yep.
Was like the top quarterback from the transfer portal.
Spent a lot of time, energy, money on him,
and not so much.
And then you look at
success.
It's just not really working. And then you look at a guy that, they stick with Cook, and he's got a really good, grasp of what they're doing. And he's got one more year under his belt and trust from the players and teams and, the coaches.
Yeah.
And
I think Mizzou
look at the
Nation.
difference.
Yeah, I think Mizzou Nation loves him this week.
Yeah,
I think it's back that they love him again.
He's back.
He's back. So we're going to talk some recruiting. A lot of recruiting stuff happening. A lot of offers going out. 2025 guys. Some of the 2024 guys. We might talk a little, preferred walk-on offer stuff. I know one time we didn't do that. I know one just went out. Mizzou just offered Joe Harris.
Yep.
At SLU, preferred walk-on. So we'll talk a little bit about that, the kind of the ins and outs of that, the positives and the negatives.
Yeah, there's a lot to that.
There is a lot to that. And so, I have my opinion. I know that you do as well. Also, maybe some helpful tips, to help these guys out. Maybe a little training tip. I know I have something I want to talk about, and it's really comes down to your behavior. Your behavior at all times in public. Seen some stuff go on, and I would never name names, but I've seen some stuff go on, and I want to tell you, you never know who's watching you. You never know. No. And even if it's just what you're doing on the sideline or what you're doing in warm-ups, people are watching, especially people like me.
Yeah. Body language matters.
Yes. 100%.
So, you listen, you don't know who is watching. You're correct.
Never
you don't know who's going to have a conversation asking about you. So in my position, it's not uncommon. I get calls from NFL scouts fairly regularly, and then NFL security as well. So the NFL security guys do the background check. So scouts are more canvassing, talking about work habits and things of that nature. But then when it comes to where the NFL scout, the security, NFL security guys will call and they do their background checks, and they want to know everything. They want to know like what the quality of character. Who do they hang out with? What type of decisions do they make in high school? They're going to invest millions of dollars into somebody. They definitely want to know that there's something that's worth investing in, not just on the field, but they're not going to be a liability. Of course, they've missed on some over the years, but at the end of the day, scouts, and NFL teams have a vested interest in seeing that work out. And and I think we're going to start seeing colleges do more of that because.
You're seeing colleges do more of that.
Recruiting departments and doing more background on what these guys are up to, and then how they behave and all that. And then I do have a really interesting social media story that we can hit on now if you want to, or down the line. But I think it is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen happen, and it really rocked me to my core the first time I saw it happen.
Is it along the lines of what I was just talking about?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's social media related. And back in the day, the NFL, when they had the NFL HSPD camps and 7-on-7, every NFL team would send a team. So we represented the Rams. But what they would do is all 32 teams would be flown in. There's NFL representatives. The commissioner would come in. Upper level, NFL management. So you're talking some serious hitters in the game of football.
Yeah.
And then you'd be at an NFL facility. So like one year was in Tampa. You were in Indianapolis. We're in Cleveland. So one of the years when social media started getting a little bit bigger, they had breakout rooms. So they'd have like all the NFC East teams were together. And what they did is on the board, they would put up messages, and they would call an individual's name up, and they would have them read what was on the screen for everybody in there to read. And
Public reading is always fun. Yeah.
It was Twitter, tweets that were not appropriate, disparaging towards women, talking about, things, inappropriate things on all levels, things that you think that you're being funny with your friends. Thank God the Rams, we never had a kid on our team that had to get up and read. But it was the most eye-opening experience because most of the kids that did it still didn't want to take responsibility and felt bad that they had to do it when everybody else does it. But the reality of it is they're the ones who were caught. And some of the things that were said were really not good, not good representations. And some of the kids ended up having bad behavior after that, and they were those kids, and they ended up getting sent home.
Yeah.
So you just never know who's watching. It's very easy to download and access who you are, and it's getting easier by the day.
Yeah, in 2023, you can't hide. You can't hide stuff that goes on at all. We're also hoping to be joined by Lee Summit North head coach Jamar Mosey of the number 1 ranked 8-0 Lee Summit North Broncos. Got things rolling there. Just had a big game against Lee Summit West. A couple of undefeated teams, and they just came out victorious. And with the playoffs coming up right around the corner, that's going to be really interesting. I know last week we had John Merritt on from DeSmet, another 8-0 team.
Mm-hmm.
And so those look like a couple of teams that might be, meeting up here.
Bound to play each other.
Right. And then some off-season stuff. I mean, it's not too early. I know there's still your playoffs and stuff going on in high school. But, if you're a freshman football player, you're a middle school player, your season is pretty much over. I know there's some playoffs and Super Bowl for some middle school teams. But, you might want to address some plans for people in the off-season.
How to get activated in the
off-season. Absolutely. How much downtime is appropriate? What's a good plan to get rolling here in the off-season?
Walk you through all of it. We've seen it work for literally thousands of kids over the years.
Absolutely. So Mizzou beat Kentucky 5-1, third place in the SEC East. A team that they should have beat.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they were ranked a little higher than Mizzou. I think Mizzou was 25 and Kentucky was 21.
Yeah. But it's a great road win. I mean, anytime you can win on the road in college football, let alone in an SEC stadium, I mean, that place was rocking. And one of my good friends sent me a photo. I think it was like, let's say, call it like 10 minutes, 5 minutes left, whatever it was in the game. And the stands were empty. The only people in there were Mizzou fans. And it was pretty impressive that we had a good showing crowd wise, but their fans definitely did not like that.
That usually happens the other way.
Yeah, it does.
It's like usually up in Mizzou, usually like at halftime, everybody goes out to the parking lot to continue tailgate. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see the other team, with their fan base.
Heck yeah. And I think
for the exits.
Mizzou's definitely got themselves in the catbird seat. They're bowl eligible. They're making good decisions.
Yes.
Offensively and defensively. They got some guys playing. They're playing through having guys hurt, and they're still responding and playing. I think it's exciting to see where they're going to go. I mean, I don't know if I forgot the exact quote that Drinkwood said, but let's keep it rolling, something to that effect of like, hey, we can't stop now. So they're just part way to their goal.
They are part way. But what I see is, you didn't have a big game by Luther. You didn't have a big game by Cody Schrader and they still found a way to win.
Yeah.
And that's progress. And just like beating the teams that they are supposed to beat, which I count Kentucky as that. Yeah. They're not this world beater. They've beaten the teams they were supposed to beat. Everybody on their schedule was beatable. And in my opinion, they should have beat them, and they did it.
Yeah, I was looking at South Carolina. That'll be an interesting one because they, on paper, should definitely beat them.
Right.
But they've had some really close games. And
what do you think of Spencer Rattler?
You know what? I'm not completely sold on him. Definitely as a solid quarterback. Some of his antics have kind of turned me off.
Right.
But from a core mechanics standpoint, he's to me, I'm a purist. He's probably not as good as I think
as advertised.
As he could.
Came out of high school.
Oh, he was everything coming out of high school.
He was the man coming out of high school.
Speaking of people coming back down to earth, Caleb Williams had a really tough outing, right? And it was very. He was very frustrated watching that game. He was definitely not feeling himself. And I think that goes into a larger subject. We've kind of touched on this with the quarterbacks, but this new age style of throwing, right? This craziness of
Sidearm
stuff, which is great when you're being an athlete. But when you need consistency and the wheels start to wobble, you need to rely on core sound mechanics. That's why a guy like a Tom Brady can last as long as he can, or Aaron Rodgers, who, yes, changes his arm slot occasionally, but only when needed, not on his regular throws. So, I think, they highlighted Brady Cook side arming a ball in the game, which, yeah, when you're throwing a bubble screen to the right and they bring pressure into it, of course you're going to have to throw around it, right? But that's why you bubble screen to the right versus to the left, because you have more leeway for the right-handed quarterback. So things like that, I think it should be a fun game to see. I mean, two let's call highly rated quarterbacks, some of the best in the SEC going head to head.
Right. Absolutely. And like I said, Mizzou, they're showing progress, right? I'm not ready to say they're there yet. They're over the hump,
Yeah.
but they're showing progress.
Yep.
And that's what you ask for at this point in the season, that they're showing progress. The program is showing progress.
Yes.
From
a recruiting perspective,
from years past. Well, that's definitely going to pay off. It definitely is paying off. Just things I hear from various players, and then in the background. Yeah. It's definitely paying off. And a guy like Brady Cook and his performance is going to pay off with some big time players.
I agree. I think they're getting he's exciting people, and the offense. I mean, first year offensive coordinator. It's exciting to see what they're doing. I mean, just give another year and see what they're able to do with Kirby Moore.
Gotcha. So Lee Summit North head coach Jamar Mosey is going to join us here. Coach Mosey, are you there?
I am here. How you guys doing?
Well, doing fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely can hear you. Thanks for joining us so much. I see that you might be in your vehicle en route someplace.
I am. I'm in my car.
Okay. No, nothing wrong with that. I appreciate you taking the time to join us. You're a busy guy. You got the number one team in the state, the 8-0 Lee Summit North Broncos. Go ahead and tell us and enlighten everybody about your Broncos this season.
We are 8-0. We've been pretty consistent, getting better, or trying to every week. We've had lots of challenges. We seem like we get, everybody's best shot. Everybody wants to beat us. And so just getting our guys prepared every week has been I wouldn't say a challenge, but just getting them to understand, hey, you got to be ready to go every time we go out there. And we had a big game last Friday against our rival, in city team, Lee Summit West. They were undefeated and they gave us all we wanted. They were a real challenge. And so our guys didn't flinch a bit and they overcame. So I'm just kind of proud of where we are. And like I said, just trying to get better.
Yeah. Battle of the unbeatens. They were 7-0. You were 7-0. And like you said, you have a target on your back. Everybody's giving you guys your best game. How do you get your guys up for that to get them to realize that?
It's just constant conversation, getting them to understand every week that you got to be prepared. You can't, you got to be focused. Like we have Park Hill this week. They have a really good coach in Andy Sims. And so they're going to be prepared and they're going to be ready to play us. Teams have done a really good job with making their adjustments. They're not showing us what they show on film. They'll play 6 games and they're doing one thing and we get out there and they're doing, a whole nother thing. And doing it well. And so I think, everybody has their undivided attention at this point because they've learned some lessons along the way. We've had some games that we didn't think that were going to be close. And so a lot of humbling things. And so I think they're ready to play. I mean, they'll be ready to play every Friday.
I think, Coach, that's a good it's probably very frustrating when you're in season, you see something that you've studied all week in film and run and think they're going to do, and then they show up and have a completely different game plan. Obviously, that's a sign of respect, but because they're trying to change their game plan to hold up and stay with you. But you do feel like that's going to help you guys as you get deeper into the year, as you face these different strategies from different teams and you guys adjust. And so you're probably going to be seeing most of the things that you may see down line.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I just, even, schematically, the different fronts, offense and defense, we've just about seen everything. 4-man fronts, 5-man fronts, bear fronts, 3-man fronts, blitzing, not blitzing. Yeah, so we've seen it all, which is good for our guys to have to adjust on the fly mid-game. Which happened last Friday. Our guys had to adjust. And on defense, we had to change some things, and so they were able to do it. They understood it. So I definitely agree. That's a yes. And also the little bit of strain that we get. Like last Friday, we had to earn that win, and I think that was needed. Before we get into the playoffs. So I thought, all of it's been really good for our progress.
So, Coach, you guys have been in the mix for the state championship the past few years, and I got a chance to see you guys the first game against Liberty North, who's just right there on your heels. I noticed a little bit of difference this year, though. The players seem different. They have a different approach to this year. Are they more bought into wanting to, grab that brass ring, grab the state championship?
I think so. Getting the taste of it last year, being that close and it not happening, it hurt. It hurt us all. And so it was no strain at all getting them to focus going into the offseason. They've worked their butts off. And then, what you're seeing too is a lot of guys that have played. So now they're out there, they're comfortable. Starting with our quarterback, Elijah Leonard, he's just comfortable. And it makes a huge difference, when you get in those tight games against really good football teams. He just doesn't get shook. And so I think that's what you're seeing. Guys more confident, comfortable, and they're hungry. They want to win it.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I noticed a hunger there that they were babies, because some of these guys will, and especially Isaiah starting as a freshman, getting that game experience, they've learned, as well as Moore, the defensive tackle Moore have learned. And those are three of the more heavily recruited guys in the state, right? And so, and everybody knows about them, but you have some guys, and talk about some of the guys who've stepped up. I know, in my opinion, Elijah Leonard is one of the best quarterbacks, most underrated quarterbacks in the state. Tanner Howes is just money for you guys all the time. And I really like the addition of Mike Lane at cornerback, transferred over from Park Hill South. You want to talk about those guys and some of your other players?
Absolutely. I'm going to start with Tanner. Tanner's a 3-year starter for us, man, and I can't say he's probably the most important player for us on offense. He's a chain mover. He gets first downs. He's scrappy. He catches the ball. He runs the ball. He blocks. He kind of does whatever we need him to do. And so it's a big help. He's I don't know. He's just like a cornerstone of our team. I mentioned Elijah Leonard earlier. He's same thing. I mean, he's become our quarterback, right? He's embodied it. Last year we kind of rotated with him, but now he's the guy, and he's done an awesome job. Of course, you got Kamari, who I think is way better than he was last year.
Absolutely.
He's gotten in better shape. He's a lot more trim. He's playing at about 285. Last year it was about 314. And it's made a huge difference. Of course, yeah. Will's different. He's more different than anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah, you notice him right away.
Yeah, it's just different. And Isaiah's been just absolutely dynamic in space and with the ball. The things we can do with him is, matter of fact, we're just finding out all the time, how far we can go with him. He can do a lot with the ball in his hand. But our offensive line is one group I'm really proud of. They're young. We got one senior on that group. Most of those guys played and started last year, and they're all back, and they'll be back again. And they've been really good every week, just getting better and better and better. And so I'm really proud of that group. And I would have to say our safety, he's not a guy that is highly recruited or anything. He's a shorter guy. His name is Isaac McIntosh.
Yep.
But he's a cornerstone. I mean, he's always in the right spot. He tackles. He gets his hands on footballs, interceptions. Just a great player for us. And going back to Mike Lane, he was a guy that played receiver before he came to us, and we put him in the corner. And I think he's a Power 5 guy. I mean, he may not end up being there, but I think he's that good. We think he's the best corner around. He's really dynamic. He's real twitchy. He's got a lot of speed. He's long, and he can cover. We think he can cover anybody. I mean, we leave him in man a lot of times, and he does a really good job.
Well, he showed that in the first game against Liberty North, going against two D1 caliber wide receivers, heavily recruited guys, and he pretty much eliminated their threat.
That's a common thing, though, Coach. You take those guys that are like let's say a good receiver, but have more potential on the defensive side. Sometimes I know it's a hard sell because kids want to be the guy with the ball in their hand, but there's a lot of money to be made, if you will, playing on that other side of the ball. And I think once guys make that transition and they start buying in, it becomes really big.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did, and he bought in. I mean, I remember when I mentioned it to him, he kind of looked at me crazy. I said, "Hey, Mike, I think you're a DB, man." And I said, "If you trust me, just go for it. I think it'll pay off." And it has, and it'll continue to as the season goes on. I mean, we get into the playoffs. We're going to play some tougher teams. They're going to have some good wideouts. There's going to be some people that he's going to see that will challenge him, and he'll challenge them back. So we're really excited about him. He's special to me. He's a special football player.
He really is, and like I said, showed in that first game. And Kamari, I mean, you wouldn't recognize him from last year. When I saw him that first game, I'm like, look at you. He was lean and mean. You could tell he spent time in the weight room transforming his body. Same with Isaiah. Isaiah, you could tell he spent time in the weight room, and all of those guys, including Will, told me that they really worked hard in the offseason to transform their body, and that was part of your program that has elevated them.
Yeah, it's something we're real serious about. That strength and conditioning piece. We kind of saw it last year come full circle, how we were able to be physical in the back end, and we didn't have any injuries, which is always a blessing. And we're back here again, coming up this part of the season, and we're really healthy. Knock on wood, right? We're going to,
right.
But we really attribute that to how we train and what we do in the weight room, so we can play, better in the back end of the season. And so now all those guys bought in. The whole team is bought in. So physically, we are a strong football team. We got good size, and we're really excited about that.
You're a good young team too. I was in Liberty, Missouri last Wednesday, and I got a chance to see your freshman team. And Coach, you guys are going to be good for a while.
Yeah, that freshman group is scary. They're scary in a good way. They're the best freshman group I think we've ever had. And that's an argument all the time with our different classes.
Right, of course.
But I don't know how close it is, because Isaiah's class, the 25 class, they get all bent out of shape over it. But
right.
I'm like, guys, you're not beating that 27 class in the game. The same age, you're just not doing it.
Right. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and I agree with you. That 27 class you have right now is scary. I mean, across the board, every position.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just physically, they're just, I don't know, the way they hit, run around.
Skill wise, I mean,
it's ridiculous.
So, Coach, a lot of them, like in Kansas City, so forgive me if I'm over here on the other side, but do you guys do they have a feeder team that feeds to the high school, or is it like a middle school team? Predominantly.
Yeah, we have a middle school team, and that's the middle school team, and then we have our junior Bronco club that we really started about 6 years old, and it'll feed into our middle school. And so a lot of those guys are in that system. So we're able to see those guys and connect with those guys for years before they become high schoolers. But it doesn't mean, it doesn't assure that they're going to be really good like that. Just a good group of guys. They've been together a long time, and it just hit right. All those guys are just, I don't know, like JP said, they're just physically different.
Yeah. A lot of special guys.
They love ball.
They live it. Yeah.
I got talented guys, but they don't love ball like these guys. These guys love ball. They don't have any grade issues. They don't have any behavior issues. Like, I don't have to say anything to these guys. They want to work. Matter of fact, they bug me. They irritate me more than anything, because they always want something, right? Coach, can I press out? Can I be on the sideline Friday night? Can I? And so their season's about to come to an end on Wednesday. They play Liberty, and I'm going to move about 20 of them up. I'm just going to move them up. So they keep practicing with us.
Awesome. Good. They're well deserving. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. It was fun, and I'm sure that not only will I see you on the sidelines coming up here in the playoffs, but hopefully you come back and join us, maybe with some hardware. You know what I mean?
Hope so. If I do, man, please have me back if we got one of those.
Absolutely. You got it.
Good luck,
Yes,
Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Coach Jamar Mosey from Lee Summit North joining us. Thank you so much, Coach. Just another great, we had Coach Merritt on last week.
Yeah.
Doing a phenomenal job over there. In the past, we've spoken with the other coaches, Coach Wagner. He's another guy like that, just doing great things, program builders. And well, that's what's really great across the state of Missouri is you have guys building programs. So they're not just coaches, they're program builders.
Which, again, it's like, do you want to have what he's built? Then you have those young guys starting at 6 all the way through.
Right.
I mean, that's, there's no greater sense of community. I mean, obviously I'm biased with football, but if you have those little guys feeding to the middle school, then obviously you have different classes that have different chemistry, and you can see it from year to year. Very rare is it back-to-back classes, especially in the public school setting. But it's really cool, right? I mean, and it's the same thing we've talked about here in St. Louis, where you have the feeders. You have teams that now, like a Francis Howell and those guys going down to third grade, and then they come all the way up through eighth grade, and then they get there, and now they're finally a high school football player. So I think that's a really neat part of the community, and it stitches it together a little bit better for football.
It really is. And like he was saying, these guys, and like we talked about last week, whether it's, whether you're just a young guy who's physically developed first than the other guys, these guys are both. These guys are developed and skilled, but you can still see that they have that ceiling.
Well, that's something he said, and we've hit on this numerous times. And Deion Sanders actually brought it up about his team. He's like, do you love?
He got it from us.
Do you love football?
Right.
Essentially, or do you love the thought of, or do you like football?
Right.
And I always say, do you love football or do you love the thought of football, right? And the thought of football, meaning it's the Instagram, it's the dressing up in a uniform, it's all that stuff.
Friday Night
Hero. If you love football, if you really love football, you're going to spend time getting good at the game that you love, right? And you're going to spend time studying it. You're going to spend time working out. You're going to spend time thinking about it, talking about it, and then obviously developing yourself. And I think that's the major difference that a lot of people do not understand. If you're going to be one of those guys, you have to do so much more, right? Whether God gave you all the skill or not, you have to do more than anybody else to just survive in the game, let alone thrive in the game.
It really is a 360 approach, right? You have to do the whole bit. You have to do the whole deal. You can't just do one thing. You can't just be a great athlete and be like, I'm gonna take this as far, because guess what? I see it every Friday night. I see it during the week. I see it Saturdays. The guys who might not be a skilled athlete are able to take care of the guys who are, because they've spent that time. They've done the 360 approach.
Yep. And that 360 approach is following everything your coaches ask you to follow, right? All their guidelines, being a good human being first and foremost, and then following all those guidelines, taking care of your nutrition, making sure you're sleeping enough,
getting your grades,
making sure you're recovering. Taking sure you got make sure you got your grades. But that food component, nutrition, sleep, hydration, skill development, body development, all those things pour into who you are as an individual playing football. And if you don't spend the time or you cheat one area, there's somebody else that's willing to do it, right? And they will do it, and you will meet them at some point, or they will
pass you by.
And they will. And so
pass you by.
I've seen it so many times, and I think, but on the flip side, if you're a guy that maybe wasn't given every single, blessing as it pertains to being a football player from a physical standpoint or just an innate ability standpoint, you can work for it. So if you continually drive and stay around people that are like-minded, and you have a growth mindset that you're going to get better and you're going to develop yourself, it is possible. And I think, far too often we're led astray to think that it's this easy path, and it's not an easy path. Like if it were, everybody would be doing it, right? And there's a reason why it's like 5.86% of high school players get to go on and play in college. It's just that simple. Right. There's not enough room for everybody.
And the horrible thing is, you don't want to see guys who leave it on the table. I unfortunately see way too much of that, where guys have the athletic ability and the talent, but they're not willing to go that extra effort, and they're not willing to put in the work to keep building. They settle. And you see the guys who go on that you were talking about, that low number, because they didn't settle.
They don't
above and beyond.
They take care of themselves. I look at, I'll use Tony Adams as a great example.
Just had his first NFL interception.
Yeah. Sealed the deal, Tony. Right? Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
He was blessed with a tremendous amount of athletic ability.
Natural athletic ability.
More than I've seen with
a lot of
most anybody. Just unbelievable jumping ability, twitchiness. But the common theme with him is they're changing coaches. They're doing all these different things that didn't generally work in his favor in college. He never got dissuaded, never got discouraged. He stuck with it, stayed to the plan, took care of his body, learned new things about how to take care of his body, right? outside of his program where he was doing more stuff, body work with one of our doctors, Dr. Tony Katakis, who really transformed a lot of like what he was thinking about how to recover, how to take care of himself. And those things end up keeping you in his position longer, right? He went in as a undrafted free agent. I don't want to give the full story because it's it's one of those things, but he was told by someone close in his circle from a coaching perspective that the best he would be as a practice squad player, right? And he took that and didn't take it as to heart and saying, "Oh, that you're right, coach. You're right. That's what I am." He took it and said, "I'm going to show you," right? He went into training camp, beat out 5 safeties. Okay, played a little bit last year, was told by his coaching staff at his exit meetings that he reminded him of some high-level players. I said, "Tony, that's a good opportunity to come back and eat people's lunch next year." He went back in training camp. He earned a starting spot, and now the rest is history, right? He had a little hamstring issue a few weeks ago, but he's doing awesome and got a game-clinching interception, darn near a pick 6.
Yeah. I mean, that perseverance, that constantly learning, constantly building, that helps separate everybody.
Yeah.
Never be afraid to learn new stuff. Never be afraid to ask, to reach out, because, coaches, your high school coaches, a lot of those guys are busy.
Yeah.
You need to reach out, find out. And with the internet is great. You can find all kinds of information, even if you can't get a hold of an actual human being to do it. You can find that information you're looking for to help make you a better player. But perseverance is huge. The guys who stick to it, don't get down on yourself. I see a lot of guys getting down on themselves after a loss. After the first game of the season, I saw guys crying.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, what? It's a long year. It's a long season. You don't want to do that. Don't want to get down on yourself. And something that's really interesting is the sleep component. I see a lot of guys, because I'm a night owl, I don't sleep myself, but I'm old, so it doesn't matter if I sleep or not. But when you're a young guy, developing athlete, man, you got to get your sleep.
So we can get more into it, but a guy that I used to work out with, a guy named Sean Stevenson, he wrote a book on Sleep Smarter, it's called, and really outstanding. Kids should be sleeping by 10 p.m. Okay. Give you a quick little tidbit, but you should read the book or listen to it if you're an audiobook person. But by 10 p.m., the circadian rhythm of your body has created all the hormones and all the relief agents your body needs to repair and recover and start the sleep process and recover, especially in kids that are growing. 10 p.m. is pretty much the time, from the sunset to when you should be sleeping. And he gives a good example of getting a second wind. And we've all gotten it, right? We've all had the second wind. We all feel great. It's like it's midnight, 1:00. You're doing whatever. Guys are playing video games and texting. Yeah. So what he describes is he's like, essentially, you know what that is. That is all the hormones, everything, all the energy your body spent from the moment you woke up. It built them up all day, and you just took all of them for yourself in a 1 to 2 hour period to stay up later. Now, when you sleep, you don't restore, you don't grow, right? Fun fact: when you let's say you come in and do a skill training session, or you go to practice, when you learn a new skill or you redo a skill and you're doing repetitive behavior, what happens is that's not happening. We talk about muscle memory. That's not happening instantaneous as you go through that mechanic or movement or play, whatever it might be. When you sleep, that is downloaded out of your brain into the body, right? So if you don't sleep, some of the work you did is just lost, right? Bad floppy disk, it's gone. So sleep is imperative. Hydration's imperative. Right? We could all drink more water. We can all get better sleep. But the kids, the guys that we're talking to in this, you're in your formative years. You should be. This is when you should be learning and growing the most, right? And so if you're neglecting that, that's on you, right? That's a personal behavior and responsibility you have to yourself.
Yep. Yeah. You want to try to go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time, and to stay in that. What you're talking about, right? So that's fascinating stuff. Yeah. I think. Yes. I think it's really helpful information to people, especially the players out there, to help give them an edge.
The other thing, and we all do it, right?
Yeah.
Blue light. on your
Oh,
phone. In the
yeah.
blue light, there's research. I mean, the book is fascinating.
The best is
It-
falling asleep with it in your hand. And
we all have done it, right? It's horrible.
absolutely,
It's
yeah.
horrible. But yeah, we
It
have.
is. You really feel like garbage the next day
Yes, you do.
when you wake up with that phone pressed in your face. That's the worst. So Illinois won, not having the best season. Do you follow much Illinois football?
Yeah, I love watching them just because Isaiah Williams, Reggie Love,
Right.
a couple guys that played 7-on-7 Midwest Boom with us and then trained with us. They're good guys. It's fun to watch. I love watching any game. People ask what games I watch.
All of them.
I watch all the games that we
Yep.
have kids playing in, and guess what? We have kids pretty much across the country, and it's
Without a
really
doubt.
neat to see because we have just so many guys. I mean, I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings a couple years ago. There was 10 different games being played throughout the day. I took a picture of every screen. We had a kid playing for each team on every screen.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
yeah, it's
And I know it
it's
seems like
exciting.
it is exciting. And I know we talk about a lot of kids and we talk about a lot of top kids. And what's funny is that, it's not by choice, but a lot of the top kids are kids that you are involved with.
Well, you just think about it. If you're going to train, right, you're training for one of two reasons. You need to get better and come way up a level, or you've established like, hey, I'm a guy and I really want to do this and I love doing it.
You want to keep your skills up.
And I think there's something about being around other people that are like-minded that want to push you, right? I mean, not everybody on a high school football team aspires to be a college football player, right? But we need every one of those guys out there. So we want to maximize those guys. But the guys that are going to matriculate and rise up the ranks, we need them to understand that this doesn't happen by accident. So you have to work for it. But if you're around other guys, like the iron sharpens iron, adage is very important, right? Because, for instance, high-level quarterback came in this weekend, one of his first times, in our facility, if not, very first time, throwing with other guys. Does that raise everybody's level? Yeah, he's competing, but they want to compete against him, and then and it all just kind of, pushes the water level higher, and everybody starts getting a little bit more hyped, and then it brings out the best in everybody. And I think that is part of being a competitor, and it's okay to compete.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody wants to see if they throw as hard as that guy, if they have the accuracy that guy
when
has.
you throw at targets, it's pretty easy to see, right?
Oh, without a doubt. You can't hide that.
You cannot hide.
Can't hide that. You can't blame your wide receiver.
No, you can't.
For that one. And I really love that. Lindenwood lost. They're currently 3-4. SEMO won. They beat Eastern Illinois. They improved to 2-4. Not the best.
Yeah, that's not. I think that's not what they were thinking they were going to have this year.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but they got a young Patrick Hyder waiting in the wings.
They do.
I think that'll be really cool to see when he finally gets the keys to that system and sees what he's able to do.
They do, and recruits seem to be looking past that record because I know I talked to a lot of recruits, and SEMO's still right there. In fact, I spoke with one this weekend. He's a high level guy, and they're number one on his list.
Yep.
So they see what's being built there. They see what the possibility is, and so they're not just going by the record, right. which is great.
Yep, that means they got quality coaches recruiting them too.
Without a doubt.
Building relationships.
Without a doubt. And then, top 5 teams, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, and Washington. A couple of those teams are just, you're not used to. And we're going to see if the Big Ten does like it always does.
Yeah.
Where they're up there, high in the rankings, and then they run across the SEC or Big 12 and you find out
something happens.
Something happens. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I think the next couple of years, when all this full transformation of conference, realignment it takes place, you're gonna have guys beating up on each other too that never had to beat up on each other, and it's going to be really interesting to see, when their record has 2 to 3 losses when they're used to having 1.
Yeah,
in conference. It's going to be trouble.
It's going to be interesting. A lot of changes. I was just looking the other day, at Mizzou's schedule for 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, what used to be the SEC West.
Yeah.
You're going to get a heavy dose of that, and so, it's good that they're making hay right now while they can, while their schedule's, in their favor and they're beating who they are and they're coming up. They got tough games against Georgia. They still got Tennessee. Arkansas is no joke.
Nope.
So it's going to...
Yeah, they were hanging with Alabama this weekend.
They were hanging with Alabama. Alabama, number 11. I don't remember the last time Alabama was not in the top 10.
Yeah.
Do you?
No. I tell you what, I sure love listening to Nick Saban talk after his practices and his press conferences. there's probably not much he hasn't seen, right? And
Yeah.
he loves to give it back to give it back
So
to him.
in other words, you like him like jousting with the journalist.
I think it's fun.
He gives it.
I do.
It
He
is
gives
fun.
it to him. It's fun.
It is fun. Nothing beats that. So, like we were saying, last season of high school football, there's still some unbeatens in Class 6, Lee Summit North. We had head coach Jamar Mosey on. They're still unbeaten. DeSmet, Coach Merritt was on last week with us. They're still unbeaten, 8-0. Nixa, we had Jackson Cantwell on. It's funny how that works, huh?
Yeah. Come on the show.
Come on the show. You'll be unbeaten. You'll have
your ratings will go up.
Exactly. Oak Park, they're still unbeaten, and Seckman. So those are the two teams we got to get from Class 6 on here soon. Seckman, we've talked about them. Interesting program.
Yeah, they've definitely elevated their program. I mean, they're winning. They're used to winning now. I think it's cultural. They have a really good youth feeder program going.
They do,
and I think they're doing it right. I remember years ago that was not the case. I was coaching Parkway West, playing Gabbert. We went down there, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty at all. He was throwing the ball over the field, and it was just and they just didn't have much of a defense. Now they're a much more solid, top to bottom program.
Right. Oak Park, they have a highly recruited. He's getting there, highly recruited. He's one of the top running backs in the junior class. His name is Trevon Pankey. 6'1", 185 pounds, speed, power. One of the leading rushers in the state. But they have a good team surrounding him as well. You have he's kind of the star, and then they have a lot of talent surrounding him. They had a couple of 150-yard rushers last week, as a matter of fact, and so they're a team to watch. They have a tough game against Fort Osage, who also has. You remember River Peppers from the Elite Combine came in and just killed it, right? Who I think River was at South Dakota State this past weekend.
Yeah, I saw you had posted that.
Yeah. And so that's going to be a nice matchup with two of the top running backs in the junior class, especially in the Kansas City side of the state. Cardinal Ritter, of course, 8-0. Lebanon, 8-0. Summit, another team. I spoke with Elijah Stevens. They're just going to be there. They're going to be in the mix. For Class 5.
They are. I would not overlook them. They're well top to bottom. They got a nice defense. Very unique too. They're just a good group of kids that really love each other and love playing together. It's just a fun deal. Grant Gibson's a kid who's been really working his butt off for years, and he knows that.
He's a humble kid,
good kid,
unassuming kid.
He's a guy that I'm a little shocked that hasn't received more recruiting attention. Right? I mean, he has good command. He moves well enough. He's for a big guy. And he puts the ball where it's supposed to be. And he knows the offense, right? He knows he understands where the ball is supposed to go, which, a lot of guys don't. That's not, you can't take that for granted. Yeah. So that's a guy that will be able to fit in a system in college.
Right. Big physical quarterback, about 6'3", 210, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Around there. St. Dominic, also undefeated in Class 5. A team that I was having a conversation with. Of course, they beat MICDS last week.
Yep.
And
at away too,
at MICDS, which is pretty kind of amazing. And just their whole program is amazing. Last year, I got to watch them in the playoffs defeat a really good West Plains team.
Yep,
a bunch of country kids.
They do just do a good job
with
a
lot of talent. Yeah, absolutely. And so they have a really good quarterback who you're familiar with,
Brendan. Brendan Shashin, young guy. He's getting
just a sophomore.
They're getting to throw the ball around. They obviously have a really strong running attack as well. So
Thomas Polium.
Yeah, I mean they're a really well-balanced team, and I think that they're confident.
Defense.
Yeah, they're confident. They're very confident. So I think that's an exciting thing, especially to see. They've been solid, but you can tell they're starting to surge, especially after last year. They've had some really good, some really big statement wins this year.
Yes, absolutely. Just a great job. Another program that's done a great job. Only one undefeated in the top teams in Class 4. Probably might be the story of the year, depending on how the rest of their season goes. But so far, they really are. Is Warrenton?
Yes,
is 8-0. Heck of a job there. Warrenton, and they have a lot of talent. Remember the name Chance McPike? He's just a freshman, about 6'1", 175, 180 pounds. Wide receiver, could really play it all. Could play quarterback, could play DB, wide receiver, just killing it. Had like 250 yards receiving in a game like a couple weeks ago.
Their quarterback, Charlie Blondin's a really nice quarterback. They obviously have a good running attack as well.
Yeah. Charlie transferring from Lutheran St. Charles
Yep.
with the coaching change. And then you're right, Austin Haas, really nice running back.
Well.
They're solid across the board. Nice offensive and defensive line. A lot of people just really didn't expect anything.
No.
And I'd love to see those stories. I love to see the guys just pop out of nowhere, unassuming, nobody expected them.
Work in silence and then put it on display.
Right, exactly. And Class 3, Seneca and Ava down in Southwest Missouri, they're still undefeated. In Class 2, there are 8 undefeated teams. Which is kind of odd.
Well, that'll change here in a few weeks.
That will change here in a few weeks because they're going to obviously they're going to have to play each other.
Yeah.
But Bowling Green, Blaine Bryant,
he's a stud.
Just an absolute stud. 275 yards, his past 5 touchdowns.
He's going to be tough to stop. Big, he looks the part.
I
remember watching him at the combine. Going, "Ooh, he can run. He's fast. He looks the part."
Unbelievable, just unbelievable athlete. And then I got to see Hillsborough and Ritter on Saturday. That game was supposed to be Friday, so it moved to Saturday. Thank goodness I got a chance to see it. I was in Kansas City on Friday night, and I got to see some small town football, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a lot of big time talent on display. Actually, there was, which is what took me there. But it was just such a cool experience. Like the whole little town comes out and everybody knows each other, and it's just really cool atmosphere.
Yep, most definitely. Tell you what. We've talked about Hillsborough. They have a heck of a program, right? And those two, I think, enjoyed playing one another, right? Because they know that they need to, again, iron sharpens iron. I know Coach Sikarsky. I saw a quote where he felt like they played well, but didn't get the outcome they wanted. But they feel as though they bettered themselves by taking on a top flight
without
opponent.
Without a doubt. And I'm telling you what, the Brown brothers, they could have just changed uniforms and played just as well. And Preston Brown is a name to remember. Junior quarterback, every bit of 6'2" at least.
Yeah, stud.
Just a stud, can throw, great speed. I don't know if you saw some of the clips that I posted.
Yeah.
Runs like a running back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some of those moves he was making was just incredible.
He's an outstanding. Yeah, he does 7-on-7 with us, and he's just a stud.
Doesn't get necessarily the hype or attention that he does because he does play at Hillsborough, which is a little off the beaten path. So what would your suggestion be? Because I get this a lot from guys, for somebody like that, a really stud quarterback, to help increase their recruiting profile?
I think they've done a lot just to, from getting reps 7-on-7 and doing the combines and camps.
Yep.
I remember they came up. We did the St. Louis Metro Football Coaches Association when he was going to be a rising sophomore, I believe. And
they were there last year.
Yeah, and they came both years that we've done it, and which is a really good opportunity because there's a bunch of coaches. It's a smaller combine in the spring, and leading up to the mega camp. And he came up, ripped the ball, and college coach was like, "Who's this guy?" Right? And then he was so young, it was like, oh, it was some let's say mid-level schools who knew that they weren't going to have an opportunity, as he gets older. So, to answer your question, I think getting the good quality game film out, right? Getting to the right schools,
being proactive,
being proactive, yes, being very proactive. Leaning on guys like ourselves to help spread the word. And then also, this coming camp combine season is going to be really big for him because he's, that rising guy that someone's going to be able to sneak in and grab, or get an offer into. But I think, and then the tough thing as a quarterback is once you start getting those offers coming your way, like it's easy, right? But it takes that first big offer to kind of spring you free. And unfortunately, with the transfer portal, there's not a lot of springing free. There's less quarterback spots. So people are pretty picky with that. So once someone finds what they're looking for and they see you just never know, back to what you were saying, who's laying in wait and they're watching you.
Never know.
And they're just waiting for that opportunity, and they don't want to show their hand too early. And it happens all the time.
Without question. But yeah, just great. And we'll talk more about the camp combine stuff. Hopefully we have that date lined up.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be March 9th. Saturday, March 9th.
And you want to make sure that you hit the right camp combine combination. I know that there's only 2 combines that I, recommend to anybody, and that is the Elite Combine and the Kansas City Varsity, KC Varsity.
Yep.
And then you want to hit college camps.
Yep, mega camp.
Yep.
First week in June. first Friday and Saturday at Lindenwood.
And then pick individual camps on varying levels. Don't just go to D1 camps. Don't just go to Oklahoma. Go on every level, because there's, you need to expose yourself to as many different coaches on as many different levels as possible.
So to that point, a good friend of mine, a guy named Bush Hamden, who actually was a former Mizzou coach. He's the offensive coordinator at Boise State. Years ago, he was at Arkansas State when we first started talking with one another when he was recruiting St. Louis. He made a comment about a couple kids that he said, "Hey, have them come down to our camp." Right? They come down to, if they think they're Power 5 guys, and they come down and they don't get offered by us at Arkansas State, it's probably a good indication they're not Power 5 guys, right? And so knowing, where you have a few of those camps where you go, where you think you are that level, to see if you're going to get that offer, it's really important, right? Because if you are a guy, sometimes it might not be a fit. You might not be a fit. But the reality of it is if you are a guy that they fits the mold of what they're looking for, they should offer you if you're higher level than them. They will, especially if they're a Division I team.
Right.
Maybe a D2 team will shy away because they just don't want to get their feelings hurt. But the reality of it is if you are that dude, they're going to offer you. Like, that's just the way it is.
At the same time, though, I will say, don't let that be discouraged to you, because I can tell you, I've been to a lot of camps and I've seen coaches and I've spoken with coaches who are like, I don't think so. And especially if they ask me names and I throw some names out there, like, I don't see, several of those guys are playing at Michigan. One of the guys is the quarterback at the University of Florida right now, who never got an offer. One of them is playing in the NFL. In fact, you know him very well, played at Vianney. I don't even need him to.
I think he led the NFL in rushing last week.
Everybody can figure it out. So do not get discouraged, because nobody's infallible as far as evaluating talent.
Right.
So if you don't get that offer, keep going.
Well, you have to get to as many of those camps as possible. So if you just don't, like JP said, spread it out, right?
As many eyes as possible.
Yeah. And, another good strategy is, say you get an offer from a particular school, or you're starting to get interest from a particular school, hit the other schools in that conference up, because once they start seeing you're posting about, let's say Georgetown in the Patriot League, those other schools, Holy Cross, Lehigh, other schools in that conference.
If competition likes you,
they're going to like you. They start tuning
automatically.
That's just the way it works.
Absolutely. Some guys who are not having any problem getting offers, Jack Lang, little recruiting news. Jack Lang, 6'8", offensive tackle from Eureka, just picked up an offer from Michigan, Kansas, and Iowa.
Yeah, he's having a heck of a fall.
Unbelievable fall. Dylan Duff, DeSmet quarterback, another part of that 2025, just phenomenal class. Picked up offers from Central Florida, UCF, and Duke, which I know he's spoken to me before about being a big fan of Duke.
Yep. He's got a sister playing soccer down at Clemson, so that'd be down that same corridor.
Right. But he's a guy who will get a lot more from a lot other P5 schools. Jason King, Tennessee and Boston College, picking up offers within the past week. Tristan Abram, another guy that we both know pretty well, picked up an offer from Cincinnati. Davis Shukar, 22nd offer from Cornell. He's a super smart guy. He's gonna future president or whatever.
Yeah, he's definitely got some high level schools after him.
High level schools. Mason Burke, even though he committed to Lindenwood, the schools aren't backing off. Missouri State. Jackson Cole, CBC 2025 tight end, picked up an offer from Tulsa. And Joe Harris, the wide receiver we were talking about, picked up a preferred walk-on offer from Mizzou. Interesting. We always seem to run out of time when we're talking about preferred walk-ons, and I know we've had some viewers say, "Hey, could you talk some more about preferred walk-on?"
Well, real quick, obviously they can ignite your game, right? They get your recruiting
use it to your
game.
advantage. Yeah.
The other thing is too is you got to understand in the NIL era, I was told by a college coach, there's no scholarship limits anymore with NIL.
Keep that in mind.
There are certainly kids that are getting preferred walk-ons that are also getting decent NIL deals, right? They're getting food, they're getting different things that by NCAA rules in the past were not good. You couldn't do, and now there's definitely some leeway with NIL. So I know of a few kids that were preferred walk-ons that could have gone to other schools last year. Let's say some FCS schools. They went Power 5. and they're at that school living it up just like all the rest of the guys. They may be paying a little bit of money, but they're also getting some benefits in return.
Right. So a couple of commitments. Ja'Cory Love committed to Southeast Missouri, committed to SEMO. We were just talking about that. Heck of a stud running back.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about this is a kid who's a legit 4.5 40, 38-inch vertical, just unbelievable athlete. A great pickup from SEMO.
Yep.
And we'll see what happens with them.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Rodney McNeil, verbally committed to Western Illinois, and Andrew Flaherty picking up an offer from Western Illinois, and then Jackson Cantwell, who was on the show last week, picking up an offer from Iowa.
Yeah.
So,
and I saw him in a picture, all dressed up in Alabama.
He's going to Alabama this weekend.
Yeah,
he's going there this weekend.
I think there's another big commitment coming up next week, if I'm not mistaken. So,
is that right? Well, maybe they can commit here on the show.
That'd be wonderful.
Maybe we can work a little something out with that.
Yeah, we'll see. I again, if you're not getting the attention you want, don't freak out.
No.
Keep putting quality plays on film.
Yes.
Work on your highlight film. Make sure you get all the best plays up front. Make sure you're communicating with coaches. Make sure you're communicating with your coaches. Make sure you are doing the little things when they ask about you, your name's going to bubble up to the top, right? From your coaches, come right out of his mouth. The other thing, coach, that you need to respond, you need to be really cognizant of, look the other coach in the eye, shake his hand after the game, talk to him, because oftentimes when that coach is talking to a college coach and they say, hey, who'd you play against this year? Who do you recommend? Who are some other guys in the area? If that coach has a good feeling about you and you competed hard and you were a stud athlete and you were a good sportsman, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give them your name, right? And there's no better recommendation than an opposing coach recommending you to a college coach. So again, be a competitor, play as hard as you can, look them in the eye, shake their hand, thank them for competing, right? We need teams to play against. Can't play against yourself. So I think that's, something that's a good word of advice is spend time with those guys, getting to know those opposing coaches, because they're not the enemy. They're just a coach from another team that you get to play.
Another word of advice is to tune in to us each and every week, 8 o'clock live now for the Football 360 show. Matt, I've enjoyed it.
Yes.
Always a good time. We could go on forever. That'll do it for us. And we will see you next week.